Member Melly Valentine's aunt who passed away this week. Pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All trustees are present this evening except Mr. Willis and Mr. Malazar, who have been excused. Communications, petitions, and requests from the public. I have received some concerns about the French program at the high school and about the sports. Citizens' comments? Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Yes. Yes, please.
Hi, Christina Sarafine. I just wanted to share a concern that I have regarding leave replacements. So I respectfully ask that the board please ensure the quality of our education remains at a celebrated level. Two recent experiences that I've had at the high school level indicate otherwise, sadly. So you mentioned French. My high school child received over 15 hours, at least 15 hours of less than par quality instruction for French. The language department chair, I've had conversations with her and the high school principal. They chose to provide over 15 hours at least of quality instructions to select classes, AP and honors classes. They excluded the standard level French classes, and sadly my daughter was part of that class, or is part of that class. The other one was geometry leave replacement. According to the high school principal, this person has little, if any, experience actually teaching that level class. So I just ask that when these candidates come through for leave replacements, that you see that they're qualified and that they're effective in their subject area, rather than just a small pool of people just because they're familiar to our district and they subbed here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any further citizens' comments? All right, then we will go on to the minutes.
Resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of the minutes of the budget work session of March 9, 2019, hereby approves same.
Motion?
Move.
Second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0.
Resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of the minutes of the budget work session of March 16, 2019, hereby approves as amended.
Motion?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstention? But then we have to table this because we do not have enough votes. We'll table that one, please.
So noted. Resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 21st, 2019, hereby approves as amended.
Motion?
Move.
Second? Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. We go on to board matters. Do we have anything for board matters tonight? All right, then, Mr. Superintendent. Mr. Massar?
All right, thank you. So just start off with some good news items. This week over at John Paulding, they kicked off Autism Awareness Month, the month of April, with a lesson by Mrs. Castellanata to all kids, just really stressing the idea and getting them comfortable that, we're all different and to embrace those differences and lighting it up blue. So the overwhelming majority of the kids wore blue in honor of Autism Awareness Month on Monday the 1st. Over at Morse, they are celebrating, April is also like National Poetry Month as well. So Ms. McCallus and Mrs. Sherwood's classes held performances and they combined music and poetry. And also over at Morse, this week, students, not all the classes, but many of the first grade classes and more will be going, visited Washington Irving Sunnyside Home and learned more about Washington Irving and his place in American history. At WI, the Teachers Association just completed their annual food drive, and they collected about 1 ton of food to be donated to our local food pantry, and it was 500 pounds more than last year. So congratulations to them, and that they're supporting our community and our families. The 4th graders were able to have some basic physics, motion, a presentation by the Franklin Institute that was really, really well received because it was hands-on and the kids loved it. And our fifth graders, as part of our STEAM activity, which is supported by the district and also the foundation, they're building Rube Goldberg machines. They're having a lot of fun with that. They actually got to hang out on the Google Hangout with a guy named Brett Dorr, who's one of the most world famous inventors. He invents these incredible Rube Goldberg machines. Sometimes you'll see them at big museums around the world and things like that. So they really love that. And I know we're going to have one or two of those on display at the foundation dinner dance next week, the 13th. At the middle school, thanks to the foundation as well, every middle school student, teacher got to take part in some mindfulness and yoga sessions with certified instructor from the meditation lab. And they had hands-on experience and worked on some of these skills and strategies, and it was really, once again, it's something that is so valuable to our kids and to our faculty and staff, and that they can incorporate in their lives as they deal with the stress and pressure that we all deal with. The seventh grade celebrated Pi Day on April 1st with a whole bunch of activities associated with Pi competitions. And once again, the kids really enjoy that, trying to really understand what pi means, which is always a difficult concept. And one of the things that is hard to believe, but next week our 8th graders are going to be, Mr. Whittam, good luck to you. We'll be in DC for the annual Washington DC trip next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I think it's always one of those highlights of the year. As someone used to go on that trip, I think I went 14 times on Washington DC trips with 8th graders. It's exhausting, but it's probably one of the best experiences for the kids and for the adults who go, even if the adults don't want to admit it. At the high school, yesterday there was a college and career fair in the middle school gym. But for our high school students, there were about 70 colleges and universities present for our 10th and 11th graders. And this year, the guidance department incorporated careers as well. So it wasn't just colleges. There were several local business people. The Teamsters Union had a display, a whole bunch of different opportunities for students to think about who might not either be ready for college or might want to explore careers. So we want to thank all the community members that participated in that, as well as the colleges. If you got a chance to see Hello Dolly last week, the kids they just did an incredible job. The talent of the students, not just those who are up on the stage, those in the pit, those in the background, right? Those who don't like to be on stage but are so important to the crew and the success. It was really a wonderful show. Tomorrow is Sleepy Hollow Jazz Festival. So all day tomorrow, we have eight other high schools are here with us, and we have visiting musicians, and they do seminars, and there's performances all day long at the high school. And then tomorrow night it concludes with a concert at 7 o'clock at Sleepy Hollow High School. And it is one of those events that I think it started with 2 other schools, and it was 3, then it was 5, and now we're up to 8. It really is an incredible experience. And this is kind of cool. And anyone who spends time in a high school knows Joe Guava. He's one of our students. He's in Miss Kaczmarek's Experiential Learning Program. And he's been asked to speak at a lecture series about diversity and self-advocacy. And he basically tells his story about how he started as an athlete in our Pioneer program, our Pioneer team, but had this dream to actually play football. And eventually he made the JV, eventually he made the varsity. As his way of giving back, he is a coach for the Pioneer team. And 2 of his teammates, Josh Kurz and Manny Perez, are also going to be speaking at that event about how he influenced the team in a positive way. And this is going to be on Friday, April 12th at 7:30 at the Irvington Town Theater. So congratulations to Joe, who has really just grown so much, and to our program, right, that supported that, and to our school district that supports all of our kids in so many meaningful ways. It really is, it's wonderful. And then on Saturday, this Saturday, it was actually rescheduled. It got snowed out initially, but we had a partnership that's just emerging with Hitachi. And Sleepy Hollow High School hosted a spring science challenge for elementary students, so kids in grades 4 through 6. And it was coordinated by Jason Choi, our science chair, and also Vivek Gupta, who works for Hitachi. And they had a whole bunch of different activities that happened over at the middle school and the high school. And they were able to light up various colored LED lights and measure their electrical output. They created wind turbines. They did all kinds of incredible things. We had several of our faculty and staff members volunteered, and it's one of those things, as well as members of our Science and Honor Society, that we hope to continue the relationship and the experience for our kids. On the athletic side, next Friday, we have our College Bound Student Athlete Recognition Day, April 12th at 3 o'clock in the high school gym. On May 2nd, we have our recruiting presentation about college athletics, those kids who want to try to pursue that. And we also have 2 clinics happening: Lacrosse Day, which is with our girls and boys varsity team, and for our younger community members on May 4th, and a Sleepy Hollow softball clinic on Monday, April 8th at 5:30 to 7:30 at the high school softball field. So, and we also have one of our students, the River Journal started a new column or a new reporting, and it's a Journal Scholar Athlete of the Month. So in April, it's our own Abby Wiltig, who's a junior and is a 3-sport track athlete, cross country, indoor and outdoors. So she's honored in this month's River Journal as a scholar athlete. So congratulations to Abby. All right. So we have with us today our middle school principal, Mr. Whittam, and also Ms. Vieira, our 7th grade middle school ELA teacher, and has been working a lot with our RTI program and supports for kids. And they're going to talk to you a little bit about the work that's happened at the middle school this year in exploring and reviewing the honors program at the middle school. So, Mr. Whittam, you want the clicker? Yeah. Just make sure it's on.
Next slide. They look good though.
Nice.
Can't see.
So good evening. It's always exciting to be back and talk to you about what we're doing with learning and instruction in the middle school. One of the things that I shared in 2017 when I first came out, I did my first just overview of what I noticed in the middle school. I had mentioned one of the areas that I really wanted to take a look at some point was our honors program. And then when I started this year, I put it out as one of the goals that it was really part of as we dig deeper into the curriculum and the offerings for students. It was a program that we really wanted to put some attention into because it is a driving force within our schedule. So it made sense that be a good place this year for us to start. So as we were going through this, and when I talk about the process, we kept coming back to the same questions, right? So it was, does this process work for our families? And really that was about, are we doing right by kids, right? So this experience when they come into the middle school, is it right for them? How do students learn best? That was an integral question that we raised frequently with our parents, with the students, and with our faculty members as we talk to them. And we really tried to also tap into what the high school is learning in terms of access and equity for all to be a part of the educational programs that are available. And then really, are we doing what's right by kids based on how old they are emotionally and developmentally? Are we trying to fit them into a box because we want it to look the same across the board? Or are we really recognizing that, an incoming 6th grader is going to be at a very different place than an 8th grader? So no matter what we did, these were the 4 real true questions that we kept going back to drive our work. Our process was really twofold. There was the data gathering, the data and analysis, and then the second piece of it was synthesizing it, getting feedback on it, synthesizing the feedback, getting feedback on it. So when we put this together, it was really a core group of people. It was Dr. Duffy, Mr. Dorn, myself, Ms. Vieira, as well as our 2 department chairs, Jen Walsh and Judy, because it was really going to impact the math and English as we engaged in these conversations. We also made sure that we had focus groups. So the committee met with parents from WI,
and we met with parents from the middle school. They were also given opportunities to do a electronic or email survey feedback to us if there was anything that kind of came up after our conversations that they still wanted to share. We also met with students. We spoke with students that are currently in the middle school, both not in and not in an honors program. And we also met with students in the high school that had either been through the program in the middle school or had not been through the program in the middle school. And what was interesting is we had kids in the high school that did honors in middle school but not high school. And vice versa, we had kids that did not do honors in middle school but are now doing it in the high school. So we really had a nice diverse mix and perspective of what students' input or take on this whole process was. Personally, I sent out, I'm part of the Westchester Putnam Middle School Principals Association, and I put out a survey and got some data that I'll share from my colleagues, and then Dr. Duffy from the curriculum level, from the district office level, also reached out to her counterparts across the districts to see how they're attacking this problem as well, or this situation as well. And then obviously we always go back to what does the research tell us, right? There are fields, or there are researchers out there that spend a lot of time looking at this and really what is developmentally appropriate and how do students learn best. Then there was kind of now let me get some feedback on all of this. So in February, we took everything that we kind of synthesized and put together. We took it back to the middle school teachers, had them take a look at it. We talked through some possible plans. We got that feedback. We incorporated that in, made adjustments. I had a great pleasure to meet with the subcommittee of the board and share where we were at that point. Got some great thinking points and talking points to go back to our committee to make revisions. There's ongoing conversations with WI and the high school because we are the middle. So I know Mr. Holland is working on rethinking enrichment and challenge and what I need periods and different ways to engage students down there. And we want to make sure that it makes sense when they roll up to us. And we also know that Dr. Smith is doing a lot of work around honors and the program in the high school, just in terms of getting how can we make sure that we're giving every kid an opportunity to exceed where they should be. And then we've had even though we've kind of have a plan in place, the conversations haven't stopped. I'm constantly having sidebar conversations with our department chairs. I've gone in to talk to the math department. This most recently is the superintendent's conference day. We spent an hour and a half just kind of talking through what math could look like and what the possibilities are. So even though we have a plan that I'm sharing with you, it's not done. We are still in evolution as we go through this. And I'm here tonight. So that's kind of been the process that we've gone through. One of the things that, like I said, we got feedback from parents, from teachers, and I'm not going to read all of this to you. I know you have it. Just some of the real points, the salient points that stuck out, is this idea, again, this was from teachers, that the true honors classes need to have a high level of rigor, that children come to the 6th grade are transitioning to a new structure, schedule, and building. And we think that teachers should be able to spend enough time getting to know their students before we start making recommendations about the rest of their middle school experience. We also, from teachers, have said, most students, including our top students, are not developmentally ready for the analytical skills they need when they first come into high school. We need time to develop and explicitly teach students what we will expect from them as they go through these higher level courses. So they come in and it's something that they've not seen or been exposed to. Nobody's taught to them how we want you to think in the type of work it's going to be. They just get put into this thing, and then we're just expecting them to shine and be experts at what they're doing. So really what it came down to summarize the bulk of the teacher feedback, is the rigor and the expectations cannot be compromised from any level, and that whatever the process ends up being needs to be the process. We can't keep shifting and going with the flow, and one year make it look one way and one year look another. They really want stability and continuity in what we do, and I think our families deserve that as well. It shouldn't be, this year my son got into an honors class because of this, and then next year my daughter, and it was the same. Like, we don't want to do that. We don't want to make it seem like we're playing tricks or trying to fool anybody. You want to be very clear and solid in what we've decided we're going to do. We also were able to talk to parents, and the parents really, the second bullet up there is, I think, the favorite comment that I got from the parents, because it's really what we're here for, is we don't need a label. We don't need to label kids. I put in the kids. We don't need to label them. Just give them all good teaching. And I think that's really what we're striving to do at the middle school, is, we don't need to have a kid labeled or pushed in a particular direction. Every kid should be getting the same level of high quality teaching and learning, no matter what. And that's really my goal and my expectation for us at the middle school. Parents have also shared that in their perspective, honors just means it goes faster and there's more homework. And that's not what honors is about. That's not the message we should be sending out there. So, that's bad on our part. We're not doing a good job of messaging what this really is. There was a lot of conversation around challenge, and my kid was in challenge, but now they're not in honors in the middle school, and I don't understand. So that also shows that we have a disconnect in the continuity of what high expectations and good learning is for all of our students from building to building. And again, even from the parents, if there's honors, the standards can't be lowered. And I agree 100% with that. The main point that I heard from the parents was really, there was a lot of conversation about, don't label my kid. Let my kid get exactly what they want, or what they need, no matter what it is. And no matter what classroom they're in, no matter what teacher's in front of them, give them what they need. Don't track or label my child into one way or the other and lock them somewhere. And so, that was something that really resonated with me from hearing from our parents. What happened here? I think I clicked one too many times, but that's okay. We also heard from the students, and the same kind of thing. Some of them expressed, I don't know what honors is. I took a test in WI, and then I was put in this class in the middle school. There was also, we heard comments of, I don't know, my mom said I had to do it. Right? And we don't want it to be about, you did a test so you have to, or you're pushed into it, or any type of, we want the student to be a part of the process. We want them to understand what it's about. We want them to know the opportunities that it can give in terms of their own learning and development, and not just have it a thing that somehow they fell into. They also talked about, which I also really appreciated, was this idea about middle school should be a restart. When they come up from WI, they're kind of placed based on what has or has not happened with them at WI. And the expression or the feeling is they want to be able to come to the middle school and start fresh and be judged now as a brand new person that they think is all grown up. But, it's just this idea, and I really appreciated that as well from a student. Let it be a restart. And the other thing that the students, again, that are in or have been in the program really talked about was this notion that when they're in elementary school, they're kind of locked into their class, their homeroom, this cohort of students that they've seen and they kind of spend the entire day with. When they come up to the middle school, they all think about 6th grade as being this time where, oh my gosh, Pangea has opened, and I can mix and mingle with all these other kids in my grade that I haven't seen. But what's happening with the honors classes is it's tracking the kids so they are locked within a particular platoon, if you will, throughout the entire day. And they can't mix and mingle. So one of the things that we heard loud and clear from the kids was, when I get to middle school, let me mix and mingle. Let it be a social experience for me, not just an academic one. So I really appreciated hearing that from the kids. So some of the data, I will say that we heard from 18 schools. You'll notice that there are 19 responses. Because whenever one of us asks another school or principal to take a survey, we always answer it ourselves because we share any data that we gather. because you never know when you might need it later in life. So one of the responses is mine for the middle school. So I had 18 fresh responses and then mine in there. And when you look at the data, it's quite interesting. Out of 19 of us, 10 middle schools have honors program, 9 do not. 6th grade, there were only 4 that offer anything in that grade. And then predominantly it lives in the 7th and 8th grade. Of the 10 schools that have honors, you'll see that we all do it in math, and I am one of 2 that has it in English. And that's across the board. That's 6, 7, and 8. I'm one of 2. Science, we do the living environment for all, so it's really a universal honors opportunity or accelerated opportunity for our students. So it really spoke to me to see, in comparison to what the decisions we've made compared to what many of my colleagues around have made. So our current process. So the history that I learned is when the 6th grade was at WI, it did not have any kind of honors sections attached to it. The 7th and 8th grade, when it was the 7-12 up here, there was honors that lived on the math side originally. When the 6th grade rolled up, to make everything look the same, it was put in 6th grade just because it was in 7th and 8th grade. So I wasn't there, so I don't know how much conversation went behind it. I just know those that were there retell it as we wanted it all to look the same. Currently, we have 2 teams for each grade level, the red team, the white team. Each team has an honors math and an honors English. That's 6, 7, and 8. Part of the reason that we do that is we don't want to give an appearance that any one team has the smart kids or the gifted kids. We want to make sure that both teams look and act as equal as possible. One of the problems that gives us is we are now locking essentially up to 60 seats. Out of 200, let's round it, 200 students coming in, we've essentially locked up to 60 seats dedicated for an honors experience, regardless if we have the numbers that it's a best fit to fill those seats. So what happens is we then have to start filling seats to make sure that we can balance out our other sections so that we don't end up with sections that have too high a student count in it. But it is there for both teams, 6 through 8. Like I said, we do offer the Universal Living Environment for All, which is a 2-year sequence, 7th and 8th grade. We're tweaking the name. Right now we call it Honor Spanish, but it's really accelerated. These are our students that have been in the dual language program. So when they come to us, they're a year ahead. So they're actually, at the end of 8th grade, they're taking checkpoint B instead of checkpoint A. So really it means they're merely 1 year ahead of the rest of the cohort in their grades. Currently, the process for entrance is there's a placement exam that's given down at WI. It's developed by our math and English teachers. The students take it down there. It gets scored by our teachers. We looked at Ames Web data this past year because that was available. And for the most part, that was how we filled our honor sections for the incoming 6th grade. In terms of our 7th and 8th grade, the teachers are constantly monitoring the students and making recommendations throughout the year. Joshua is really struggling. He's in the honors class. We've really tried to support. He's becoming more frustrated and it's not a positive experience. Let's put him in the grade level course because we want him to feel successful, and vice versa. We have students that are in the grade level course that 100 on every test, they're just flying right through. So a teacher would make a recommendation that we can move them up into one of the other sections. So currently that's our structure, a little clearer. That's where our model is right now. So what we're proposing is, one, looking at that incoming 6th grade. Let me pause. What we're recommending is a multi-year implementation of a new design model for the honors program. For the students that are currently in it, so our current 6th and 7th grade students, nothing will change for them as they articulate through the remainder of their middle school years. It does not make educational sense to have a kid in something that they now understand and know, and then take it away from them the following year. So the impact would start with our incoming sixth, and then as that sixth grade articulates through the middle school, that would be the class that's kind of the first as they move through. And then every subsequent grade would then go through the same experience. So what we're looking at is replacing the honors course or the honors class section in sixth grade with enrichment opportunities. And we're going to start with math. So what you see up there is just the changes that would happen in math. As you know, we have this flex program, this flex period that happens every day for our students. So what we're looking at is for the first three quarters, quarter 1, 2, and 3, we would rotate kids through a math enrichment experience. And we're still looking at what what curriculum we might use in there. But one of the things we've thrown around is something like Connected Math, CMP, where it's really more about how do kids problem solve, what kind of logic are they using, what type of critical thinking are they demonstrating. It's not a sit down and let's do math and open up to page 23. It's really tapping into that learning experience that Flex is, where it's all project-based, problem-based, and the students are really just working through thinking and their logic skills. So that would be quarters 1, 2, and 3. We would rotate kids through just to see if they have a liking of it, to see if we have a right fit. And it would really be opened up to the kids that it's most appropriate for. Meaning, we have some students that that are classified, that get other types of services during that time so that we don't take a different elective away from them. And for some of our students, an honors or accelerated program may not be the best fit for them. So we wouldn't force every kid. We would make an individual determination for every child to see who would experience this, the math enrichment in this form. By the end of the third quarter, and I'll talk about the criteria in a little bit, when the kids get to the end of the third quarter, we would identify what we think would be the strongest cohort that potentially could go into a Math 7 honors course. And they would spend the fourth quarter of the year in a true, what we're calling a math boot camp, an honors boot camp. So during that flex period, they would do an honors math boot camp. And that curriculum and expectations would be given to us by the 7th grade teachers that have been teaching honors 7 math.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
So is there a limit on how many children can experience the boot camp?
No.
in the fourth quarter?
Well, we're going to let the kids dictate the numbers that will go into it. And to jump ahead, so when they go into 7th grade and we open up that new version of the honors class, right now we're looking at it might be 1 section, but if the numbers tell us it should be 2, it'll be 2. If the numbers said it should be 5, it'll be 5. It's what the kids tell us every year will determine how many we have.
Do you have the staffing for this?
Yes, we do. It would just be the conversion of a grade level math course into an honors course. So then at the end of that boot camp, those students, and that boot camp is really designed as more of a math boot camp. It would be, here are the skills and the standards that the students need to have to be successful in 7th grade honors. And so it would be a different experience. It would not be just this fun learning experience like the first 3 quarters. And that's intentional, because we do want them to feel success walking in day 1 to 7th grade.
Can I just ask you, because I know that would be phone calls that we're going to get, is from some of parents who are kids that are really, really advanced in math. They've just, it's just in their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And they just can fly through that. What are you going to do about them in 6th grade?
In 6th grade? So again, we're working with the teachers right now to develop extension activities that they can do in the grade level class. Where, like I said, we'll also have some of them going through, all of those students would be going through the enrichment activities throughout the first 3 quarters. But again, it's really coming back to what type of differentiation opportunities are we giving in the classroom, and how well are we supporting teachers to deliver that. And it is really, when we look at what a true concept of honors and high-level enrichment should be, is it really should be more autonomy on the student's part with supervision and oversight by the adult. But a lot of those students that really have that proclivity to math, you just need to give them the 5-7 minute basic introduction to what they're doing, and then you let them go. They don't need to have their hand held as much as the rest of the class. So it's more of a check in and out during class while they're working on an alternative assignment, still tied to the standards that they're working on, but it would just be developed at a different level. Okay. So next year, that's what it would be, is those students that would go through this experience in 6th grade, they go into 7th grade the following year, and they're funneled into a 7 honors class. That class is not going to live on a team. It's going to be a cross-team class. So we don't want it to be where the perception is not there that all of the really good math kids live on the red team. No, we're going to try to divide them up as equally as possible between both teams. When that math section happens, they funnel, they come together, and then they go back into their team for the rest of their day. Then this process would then just continue. So next year, like I said, we would run this for 6th. 7th and 8th would be the honors classes that are currently in place. The following year, that first cohort would go into the new Math Honors 7. Math Honors 8 would be the same kids that we have now that are articulated out. So it wouldn't be until 21-22 that we have all of those students have gone through that process. And we also know that when we hit 8th grade, the reason why we are starting it in 7th is we know that in 8th grade we still have that opportunity to have some kids in advanced math or honors math, but we also have those students that we're trying to prep and get into the high school algebra course. So that option is still available to us in the 8th grade. It would be dependent on if it makes sense in a budget cycle, but we're also looking at taking an idea from the high school and potentially having a week or a 10-day summer boot camp as well to just support the skills needed and the thinking needed to perform well in an honors course. So the exact same process would happen for English. The difference is it would start 1 year later. Because if we tried to run both of this at the same time, we would double dip on some kids and they wouldn't have the opportunity to go into both math and English if they're going through the same cycle. So we would want to make sure that we had an opportunity to separate them out so they had the opportunity for both if it's right for them. So again, it would be the exact same process, just it would start in 7th grade for them instead of 6th grade. And so essentially that's what it would look like when you compare the two side by side.
So the 6th grade enrichment opportunities will be done in each ELA class as determined by the individual teachers, as opposed to like a whole different class called enrichment.
Correct. Also in the 6th grade, we do have electives that we have built in, such as a creative writing course. So we can also meet that need through elective courses that we've started this year. And like I said, it wouldn't be until the 21-22 school year that we would have both English and math in the new proposed version. When we're looking at students for the honors courses, this has not been decided. We put ideas together. We're waiting for the final go-ahead to start developing the final pieces of this process. But when we look at what options are available to identify students, once they've kind of gone through the boot camp and the experience and we're ready to make a placement decision into honors, these are the options that we have available to us and that we would define. We wanted to really narrow down a lot of the extra stuff out, and this would what we feel would give us the best set of data. One thing that we want to do is every time a student took an exam, because there's already, we have an honors course already developed and its own tests and everything. So every time a student took an assessment in one of the math or English, at the end we would have 2 or 3 starred questions that the students would know about. But they would be questions from the honors version of that assessment, just so every time the students take an assessment, they would have an opportunity. Doesn't count against their grade, but they would have an opportunity to answer or work on some of those problems. And the teachers would then keep track of that. How many tried? You know, did they try and they showed great thinking? Did they try and completely aced it? But we would track that. So as we got to the point where we were ready to make decisions, we would see how the students performed and if there was even an interest there for them. The biggest thing for us is having student voice. So we really want to mirror the process in the high school of being able to have conversation, not an interview like giving a dissertation on why you should be in honors, but just have a conversation with the student about, so we're thinking about this class, are you interested? And this is what it would be, and we think it would be amazing for you. What do you think? Again, just starting the process to really teach kids how to self-advocate for themselves. And then obviously all of the other data points that we would have available that we currently do. In terms of where we need to go from this, we still need to come to get some more feedback. Are we going to lock in? Are we going to still tweak some things? We need to develop what the entrance and exit criteria, the rubrics like I just mentioned, so that we have that locked down. And then really begins the communication cycle. For one, we want to make sure that whatever the final product of this looks like, the outline, lives on the district website under the curriculum tab, and it also should live under the middle school, on the middle school website. Because again, we want to make sure that it's full transparency, this is what it is. It would also then be folded into any and all materials that I send out and present and do with the 5th grade parents as they begin the articulation process up. Under the to-do, there's a couple of questions that we have that we're still trying to research and figure out. And for us, we're really struggling still with this idea of when a student is in an honors class, how much support is beneficial and when do you start to cross the line to it being, you're giving so much support that the actual experience is being lost for the student. So we're still trying to explore and learn more about that. And the other big thing for us that we want to learn is when's the best, if a student has to come out or move in, what makes the most sense? Is it, do we have them finish the year or do we set a semester enter and exit point? So those are some of the things that we're still trying to philosophically get our minds around. But overall, that's the work that we've been doing this year. That's the thought process. It's at times been very messy, just as we try to make sense of what we're hearing and the feedback we're getting. But ultimately, it comes down to we really feel like the plan that we've laid out is what makes sense for incoming 6th graders and honors their development as they move each year through the middle school. So that's the honors program, and I know Chris is giving me the eyes that I talk too much.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And maybe this is a question for you, Chris. The dual, are we getting a report on the dual language program? Can we get any information on that?
We're going to give you an update. They've been studying it. There's been some surveys that have been sent out to parents, and so you'll be hearing about that.
I'm a little concerned with this checkpoint B exam. So you're saying they're only, because they had, that's 8th grade, right? Is that
Correct.
8th grade? So these kids have had 5 years of dual language over all these other kids, right? So how are they only a year ahead?
So in the dual language program, and I don't want to get into the specifics of the curriculum, but it's not the grammar and the actual reading and writing of the Spanish language. When they get to us is when they really get into the mechanics of the language.
Like I said, we're going to revisit this over the next 3 meetings, so we can continue ahead. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
And I think that's it.
Okay. Any citizens' comments at this time? We'll go, speaking of use of school facilities, we have the policy, 1500, this is the regulation, use of school facilities, the regulation. 6th grade student visitations will take place at 9:30 a.m. in middle school, high school, 3rd quarter, report. The report's marketing period will end. And on the 13th of April, the ACT exams and also the Foundation Spring Benefit at 7 p.m. the Portuguese American Club. The 15th of April is the High School Arts Honor Society induction at 7 p.m. And the 18th is the high school, middle school report cards, which will be available. Melanie?
Once again, this year's annual school budget vote and board elections will take place on Tuesday, May 21st, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Tarrytown residents will vote again at Washington Irving School, and Sleepy Hollow residents will be voting in the cafeteria at Moore School. Petitions for school board candidates are available in the office of the district clerk here in this building, Monday through Friday between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. The deadline for submission of petitions for candidates and propositions for the annual election is 5 p.m. on Monday, April 22nd. Eligible residents may register to vote in the office of the clerk, again in this building between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. on any day that school is in session through May 16th. Evening registration takes place here in the boardroom on Tuesday, May 14th from 4 to 8 p.m. And anyone voting by absentee ballot must complete an application by contacting the clerk at 332-6241 or obtaining the application on the district website. If the ballot is to be mailed to the voter, the completed application must be received by the clerk no later than 4 p.m. on May 13th. And if the ballot is to be delivered personally to the voter, the completed application must be received by the clerk no later than 4 p.m. on May 20th.
Thank you. Any citizens' comments at this time? There's no reason to go into executive session, so could I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.